Hi, welcome to the Elle Russ Show, where I deliver content intended to inspire, educate, and motivate. Engage with me online at elleruss.com and on social media. Enjoy the show. Today, my guest is Elizabeth Resnick. She's a double certified health coach who loves teaching women of all ages to love their bodies and their lives. Happy, healthy, and hot is a unique combination of mindset, nutrition, and fitness that works. Elizabeth's clients achieve much more than weight loss. They report increased confidence, better energy, and an overall vitality that they never even anticipated. Elizabeth coaches clients all over the world. She's been featured on TV, numerous podcasts, and in 2020, she was a finalist in the Maxim Cover Girl competition in her 50s. You can visit elizres.com, ELIZRES.com. for more information. And on Amazon, you can grab her incredible journal, Happy, Healthy, and Hot Journal. Enjoy the show. Hey, Elizabeth, welcome.
Hey, Elle, I'm happy to be here.
So you and I are close friends.
Yes.
And that's not the reason why I wanted to have you on. I wanted to have you on because I find that your journey of self-growth and evolving from being a people pleaser and being in a relationship that was with a narcissist, and where you kind of beat down there for a while in terms of your confidence and self-esteem, and where you are now, and where you have come, because I think that your journey is very inspiring. So we've talked before in the past, even on the Primal Blueprint. You're a double certified health coach, also a primal health coach. And we've talked about how, you cured yourself of acne, and all of the wonderful things that a paleo primal life gave you. And this is definitely one area we'll touch on. But let's talk about where you were in the mindset at the time, because when you were struggling with like some health stuff, some face stuff, things that were going on, you look at those photos and it's an amazing before and after, because the photo before I'm looking at, like, yeah, you're still pretty and you look somewhat healthy, but you can just tell in your face you're hating it. And, I know your skin was fucked up at the time too. So I know that's a long intro, but like, let's start with like, before you got healthy and happy and hot.
Yes.
You're always hot, but yeah.
Well, thank you. Well, here's the thing. It's that whole idea of, for me, health and wellness, nutrition, fitness, it's always been a part of my life. It's always been something that I'm very interested in. And my whole view for the longest time was, if people would just eat the right things and move their bodies, everything would be great. But it's really so much more than that. And I look back now at those times where I looked good to most people on the outside. I was happy in my body. I was fit. But inside, I was just falling apart. And, that's why I say I want women to love their bodies and their lives. This gets to be fun. It gets to be exciting. Our lives can get better and better.
So tell us about, you were, I guess the way you describe it in terms of knowing you personally is, once you got out of a destructive relationship and you started to work on yourself and sort of do the deprogramming of being in something like that, that journey was really transformational. Let's talk about the way that you felt in the relationship you're in. You were with someone who had narcissistic behavior, was very controlling. So it's like you were this happy, healthy, like vibrant being. Then you get in this relationship, and then your friends say, once you were out of it a few years, they're like, oh, I have my friend back.
Yes. My sister literally has said, my sister is back. Friends that knew me before say, you're back. You're yourself again. And when I look at all those, literally decades that I was not being myself. And it starts so subtly. If we want to talk a little bit about the people pleasing part of it, because we attract, I'm not placing blame on anybody here. I'm grateful, extremely grateful for my journey. I can look back at every dark moment and say, and this is something that I've certainly learned from you as well. And you talk about this in Confident as Fuck, but this whole idea that these darkest places that we're in have led to the most amazing, delicious surprises that we couldn't even anticipate. But it starts so subtly. I think really, especially maybe for women more than men, it's this subtle, good girl thing. It starts with my parents are the most amazing people in the world, but I think all parents sometimes have this subtle, well, if you're a good daughter or son, you'll do this, you'll do that. So we grow, and then the school system does it to us, everything, society, but I think again, especially for women. So there's already these subtle hints. We grew up already subtly feeling that being loved or even being liked is based on behavior, is based on doing the right thing. And then if you're coming from that, and so many of us are, and then you get into a relationship with somebody that is controlling, and that it's so easy to just think things are your fault. If I just would have done that differently, I need to be better. I need to be more perfect. And that maybe is part of the reason why I always, even though my skin was really broken out, but I was great at hiding it, I had all these internal issues, the digestive issues and the anxiety, which we've talked about before, and the severe cystic acne. But still on the outside, once I covered up the acne, I was, fit and wearing cute clothes and all of those things. Like I looked like I had it together on the outside, but I was just falling apart on the inside. I literally lived a life where I was waking up thinking that somebody was going to be mad at me. Like I just wanted to not, it was almost like a little child, like, oh, I hope nobody gets mad at me today. And again, I allowed that. Like, I'm not blaming, I allowed that. I allowed that to continue to grow. Like I look back now at things that I tolerated, and I can't even.
It's like horrifying, isn't it? And I think people listening have all been there in some capacity when you're like, oh my God, how could I have accepted this?
Yes. Yes. And, to go back to on this whole subtle people pleasing thing, because I think it can get a little tough for someone to understand it.
Yeah. Give us some examples of how you would people please. And how
yes. Well, I'll give you some specific examples. But first I want to say it's not bad, like, to want other people to be happy. So pleasing others is perfectly fine when it's making you happy. It's when you're betraying your own needs, when you're not paying attention to your own needs out of fear of hurting somebody else, making them angry, that's when it's people pleasing. And if you do this for a long enough time, you get to the point where you don't even know what your own needs are. You don't even know what you want, because you are so focused on just not making other people angry and making them happy.
Right. There's like two sides of it. It's like people pleasing, but then that comes with so many eggshells. You're dancing around other people's volatility. And there's also this and I'm sure you had it too, and which is this false sense of like, I know this person, I got it. So you're dancing around and you're doing all this shifty to try to dance around someone else's personality. And it totally backfires, but you think you got it. You're like, I got this. I know how to handle this person. And you're like, your handling is a disaster.
Right. And we shouldn't have to be handling people. We should just be able to be ourselves. And actually, I just read the new Mel Robbins book, The High Five Habit. And she addresses people pleasing in a way that makes it so clear. And again, says, hey, there's nothing wrong with wanting people to be happy. That's good. But that say true, like when you are doing it and betraying your own needs and desires, you are actually, people pleasing is actually being manipulative. Like,
yes. And we're being. Yeah. And kind of explain that, because someone who's a people pleaser and in this environment feels a little bit like a victim in the scenario, and they would be defensive about that.
Yes.
But it is manipulative behavior, because it is truly lying one's ass off.
That's exactly right. So if you told me back then, if you said that I was being manipulative, I would be saying, are you kidding? Like, are you kidding me? No, I'm being manipulative. I'm being manipulated. I am the victim here. But actually, if I am not being myself, if I'm acting like an entirely different person to try to keep everybody around me calm, I am manipulative. Like it's hard.
And enabling. It's enabling.
Yes, it's very enabling. So when you are in the situation, I would say it would be hard for anybody to understand that. It's when you get far away enough from it, and you can realize that you're right, it's enabling everybody else, certainly. And you are actually, in a crazy way, being manipulative.
And one of our favorite books on the topic of dating like a narcissist or a covert passive aggressive narcissist is Debbie Mirza, Mirza. She is amazing. That book is one of the best books I know. It's been healing for so many people I know that were in relationships and marriages, such as Debbie was, where you come out of it and you have to do the deprogramming on yourself because but here's the truth. And this is what was going on with you too. Usually the signs of this are your health is suffering in some ways. The energy is depleted, right? Like you life's not awesome, but you're not addressing it. You felt what was going on there. Let's talk about some of the moments, because you eventually had to leave. And this takes, especially when it's been a long-term thing and you've been a people pleaser for a while, eventually you left, thank God, right?
Yes.
Before you left though, I want to hear some more examples of how this would show up, either as you as a mother or as you in your relationship at the time with this person.
Absolutely. Well, I'll say it first of all, the signs were there very early on. So again, this is that looking back, hindsight is always 20/20. But again, that whole feeling, that whole saying, trust your gut, your intuition, trust the feelings you have in your body. Because back in my 20s, I was feeling some of this. Things didn't feel right. Questions that were asked felt intrusive. But I would look at on paper, all of this looks so good. This all makes sense. This is a great guy. We look so cute together. We have this future plan. We want so many of the same things. And yet my body was giving me signs, not even necessarily physical symptoms, but I was literally feeling it in my gut, feeling, why is he asking me this? This is really intrusive. This sounds like a lot, there were money controlling behaviors before we were married. Wanting to combine some assets, things like that. And, but if you loved me, you do this. Like, of course, everybody does this. So you start to question yourself, like, I must be mistrusting. I must be a bad person. But it really is that trust your gut. If something doesn't feel right, like allow yourself to sit with that for a minute. It doesn't mean you need to get confrontational right away. Just acknowledge it. Acknowledge those feelings. Because I think I've used the analogy of like you go down this path and you go down it for such a long time and the path is so clearly marked. Picture, you with your hiking out. There's these hiking trails that are clearly marked and beautiful, and there's all these wonderful things to see around the way. But you could get really far along and say, wait, I don't even know if this path is leading to where I want to go. And to get on a different path seems really hard and scary sometimes. And maybe you have to cut through some brambles and, you get cut up a little bit along the way, but ultimately you can get on a path that's leading you where you want to be. And, I think about that. I just kept going down this path and I see women doing that. You just go down this path. It can be in a relationship. It can be with your career. It can be with a lot of different things. And you're not really feeling, it's not feeling right or fulfilling, but you're so far along, you're kind of afraid to go off that path.
Yeah, let's get back to also some of the things that just came up for me. And I was thinking was just gaslighting and being gaslit. I forget if this was you or someone else I was talking to, but I think it might have been your experience during this long relationship where like someone will bullshit you about something to make you feel bad. Like, so-and-so was saying this about you. And you're like, they never said it.
Yes.
Like,
I was.
Yeah. So give me some examples of how the shit you kind of dealt with gaslighting. Cause that's a tenet of these people.
It starts out with, I didn't say that.
Yes.
I feel like are you crazy? I feel like you're going crazy because that's never happened. And didn't matter whether or not I had documentation. It didn't happen. It wasn't intended that way. But to give you an example of how crazy it got at the end, I was told that this was after I had left and filed for divorce, but we were still kind of in this weird limbo place. And I was told that he was receiving phone calls from somebody saying to stay away from her husband, and the person would hang up and it was a number, couldn't be traced and all this stuff. And I was not involved with anybody's husband. I wasn't involved with anybody, but I literally started to think, who could this be? Could this be somebody I was creating these crazy scenarios in my mind and feeling these like feelings of guilt because I had felt that so many times before when I was accused of things that didn't even happen. And this thing kept growing. And it wasn't until much later, I got another call. And it wasn't until much later that I realized that this whole thing was a load of crap. I don't think he ever received a single phone call.
Nope.
It was to see what type of reaction he might get from me.
Bingo. And that's who I might do.
So, what I might start thinking, who I might inadvertently throw under the bus.
Yes. And those are the kind of tactics. And also too, another one where like it can be as simple when you guys are listening, it can be something as dumb as you put your key somewhere, they move it somewhere else. You're searching forever. You're thinking you're going freaking nuts. And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know where it was. Just to watch you go kind of crazy and freak out. That's the sick, evil nature of these people, whether it's subconscious or not. They usually do know. They usually do have that evil element to them. And those are the things you have to watch out for. So when you start to feel, and I remember when it happened to me in a relationship, it wasn't until the third time when I was like, I see what's happening. Yeah. But the first one was the guy asked me, he's like, hey, when I called you Sunday, you said you were doing X, but now you're saying you did Y. By the way, I had no reason to lie about whatever this thing was. Right. Like I told him I went to go do laundry or whatever they have done. And I remember going, I wouldn't have conflicted myself. There would be no reason for me to lie about doing laundry, And he was like, but you said that. And the thing is that I didn't fucking say that. I'm pretty good with I remember what I say. Yeah. And I was sitting there going, I was starting to feel crazy for a minute. Cause I was like, what? Like, did I? It was all bullshit. Yeah. I said what I had said correctly at the time. This person was literally sowing the seeds of trying to get me to doubt myself. And again, imprint this stuff. So it doesn't matter if you even have proof of the thing. Even if you had a tech, it doesn't matter. They're still looking at you like, I don't know. I think you kind of lied. Or like they're accusing you of what they're basically going to do. But so the gaslighting. Oh, it's yes. And it's that you start to doubt yourself. And that's just not a good place to be. I was accused of my social media, my friends on Facebook, and I was barely on at that time. I wasn't on Instagram. I had just started on Facebook. And you get these friend requests from people like, oh, that's my, acquaintance's husband, whatever. Like they're just, and then he would literally question who all of my male Facebook friends were. Mm-hmm. How did I know them? Or they messaged me. I'm like, that's like so-and-so's husband, like I've never met this dude. We're just Facebook friends. But you start, it happens so much. And they'll remind you of the thing that happened. In this case, I was reminded of, something that happened before we were even engaged and was never mentioning it. And then it's brought up like, well, this is why I don't trust you. And it's like, that's something that we discussed 25 years ago. Mm-hmm. And you're bringing this up now. Like we had the discussion, it starts out subtle, but it's when you look back, it's all clear in hindsight. Yeah. And when I met you years ago and you had been somewhat briefly, not too briefly, but maybe within a year out of it. Yes. The difference in your self-esteem now, and let's just talk about the block too. And we don't have to mention any names, but this person was, even after the fact, after all was said and done, everyone's on their own life path now, still looking at your DMs every day, commenting, trying to contact you to tell you that posting a bikini photo is inappropriate, all of these types of things, right? Because by the way, Elizabeth looks great in a bikini in her 50s, she's fucking rocking it. And she has no shame about fucking showing it and giving people inspiration on that. So, and none of it's pornographic, right? It's just you're in your bikini. I'm in a bikini. And here's the thing, I am encouraging women of all ages to feel comfortable in their bodies, to love their bodies. And I am showing people what is possible at the age of now 55, not going to a gym, not doing anything crazy, that you can feel amazing and be very confident in a bikini or whatever you feel like wearing. But at first in this sort of after stalking, continuing the same behavior, you're still sort of in it. So you're still, and I remember we had this conversation about it, right? And I remember being like, why are you so afraid?
Yes.
to block this person. Like
Yes.
they don't have a right. Like why even bother pushing your stories and seeing their name come up? Like, and maybe they'll go to a fake account and figure it out elsewhere, but at least you don't have to see the
I
person's
won't
name.
know.
We had this whole conversation and it was actually the best thing you ever did. I remember.
I won so many, I feel like my life, literally, it was a life-changing moment. But here's why so first of all, I guess, what I was seeing was they were in my stories literally constantly. And so it was like checking up multiple times a day. And then telling me things subtly and telling me this person doesn't like it or that person doesn't like it. It was never coming from them directly. It was always done, for somebody else.
Right. In a way of making you feel bad. So-and-so's talking about you and mentioned that you look bad. And again, we now know, probably not even fucking true, but whatever.
Right. But, just this, oh, well, this person said this and this person said that. But at the end of the day, the reason, and you're like, why is this person not blocked from your social media? Well, here's why I didn't block them in the beginning. First of all, I felt it seemed hostile. It wasn't now. I realize it was, now I block at the drop of a hat. But it felt hostile to me. And also, I knew that they would question it and we'd have to have a conversation. And I wasn't looking forward to that. But it finally reached a point and
which was probably the conversation where it's like, well, that's continuing the same acceptance and the same, like you're still receiving it even after you left, you're still in it.
Yes.
You have to break it.
Yes. So when I finally made that block, which I am so grateful to that conversation that we had about it. And I finally did it. And I was like, I did it. And you checked in with me the next day. You said, well, how do you feel? And I was like, not good. Because the conversation, I was anticipating the conversation. And sure enough, it happened. And it started as a text. And I just didn't reply. Again, you don't have to reply to the text when it comes in. Eventually, we did have the conversation over the phone. And I explained that he was having way too much of a say in this stuff. And I didn't care what he thought. But I didn't want him to see it anymore, that it was a choice that I made and that I wasn't, and he explained all the reasons that he was doing it for other people. And I was like, I don't care. And, obviously I never went back, never. And doing that, once I got past that initial yucky feeling, and it was a yucky feeling.
Because it's so against what you were used to, but then you did the move, the uncomfortable thing. You stood up, you spoke up, you said no, fucking you blocked. And then after the yuckiness, it feels fuck. You're like, why didn't I do this?
It was, yes. And it was a whole different energy. And what's so interesting is I feel that once I did that, I actually brought a different, better energy to my social media. I was showing up more as myself, which is what we all want to do. I was showing up more as myself. I was more confident because I wasn't thinking about what this one person out of thousands was going to say.
Right. And allowing, again, still at that moment, right, in that phase of, you can get away from the narcissist, you can move forward, but you still have to do the work to get through the yucks. And you really did. You did all of it. And we'll say, hey, you have an awesome therapist. You are a growth mindset person. You did a lot of reading. I mean, there's a lot of journaling. I mean, you really put in the work to go, because you recognized it and you go, well, this sucks, right?
Yes, because, at the end of the day, you and I are both fans of Abraham Hicks, and they say, like, you take your vibration everywhere you go, which is why so many people repeat. They say, oh, things will get better when I leave this toxic job or this relationship, or I move to a new area. And then they attract the same situations because they changed the conditions, but they didn't change themselves. Mm-hmm. So I got out of a condition that a situation that I needed to get out of. But I used to think that, like, I think I kind of felt once I made that bold move, and it was bold and it was scary, that everything would magically be fixed. But I still had a lot of work to do. I had to change who I was. And we're constantly growing and evolving, and I'll never stop wanting to learn and grow. But I put a lot of work into myself so that I wouldn't attract these same situations again.
And I guess I'll just say for, these types of people in relationships, you might come across another red flag for people is if you are out there, ladies, and you find yourself, or a guy, and you find yourself having like tiny voice, you're not speaking up, and or the person you're with is constantly can't hear you. I've found that this is like a really good detector of feeling uncomfortable somehow and expressing oneself around this person. And so I noticed in the past where boyfriends be like, I can't hear you. What did you say? Like they really couldn't hear me because I wasn't speaking loud enough. I'd be mumbling. I wasn't like comfortable in voicing,
Wow.
and then I also noticed too, or if you feel stifled again, choked up in the throat, of course, that's a big one. But tiny voice. So if, and I've mentioned this and lots of people have gone, oh my God, I resonate. There must be something about being in a relationship that's not right. And then feeling again, especially if, it's controlling it all, or you're with someone who's narcissistic, it's just kind of dampering. So yeah, tiny voice or feeling
I haven't heard that term before, but that's perfect.
Because like when do I ever have a problem projecting myself? Like I don't, but if I'm in those scenarios and I start and the tip off is people will be like, I can't hear you. What did you say? And if it happens more than once or twice with someone that I'm dating, I'm like, okay, I've got a problem.
That's such a good point. But yeah, just not being comfortable stating what you'd like or speaking up for yourself. That's a great tiny voice. I'm going to remember that one. That's awesome.
Yeah. And so as you went through this process, then you become someone who's trying to be a boundary boss, right? You're working on in every area of your life, then seeing where this, so once you're beyond it, now you blocked and you're like, ooh, you're really beyond a lot of humps. Not to say that the growing doesn't always happen forever, but
right.
What are some examples of things you've noticed in life where like maybe you caught yourself in the world where you were about to be a people pleaser or didn't speak up, and then you're like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? Like, you catch yourself.
Okay, well, there's big ones and little ones, and like just a super, as you say that, a really little example that comes to mind is going out to breakfast with my daughter, who's adorable, and we always have a good time together. And I've never, as someone who's always been interested in health and wellness, I've never had a problem ordering things the way I want them, stating, hey, I'd like this and this. Please leave the cheese off the burger, whatever. I've never had a problem with that. But so we go out to breakfast, this cute little place in Hershey, and I ask for my omelet without cheese and, substitute fruit for the hash browns and whatever else I ask for. I don't remember, whatever modifications that I required. No big deal. Always so comfortable doing this. I have been my entire life. Well, then they bring it and it's not the way I want. And the old me might have just not wanted to ruffle any feathers and just eaten it and not been happy and scraping things off and a little disgruntled. And I just said, hey, excuse me. And I could see my daughter for a second, like, oh God, what's she gonna say? Hey, I asked for this without cheese and it has cheese on it. And the server was lovely and said, you're absolutely right. You did. This is a mistake. Let me take this back and have this taken care of for you. So, it's those little, and then I talked to my daughter about it afterwards. Not not that it's this big teaching moment. Like I said,
it is though. It is.
But yes, it's those little things. I said, the old me wouldn't have said anything and I just would have been annoyed. And
right. And then your daughter, if she were younger, let's say, because she's less impressionable perhaps now that she's older, but still, this is again a teachable moment as someone who wants to show their children confidence, self-esteem, speaking up for oneself. Yes. And again, I know you're not going to say to the server, I said no cheese and there's cheese on this. So like, you're not going to be a dick, right?
No.
Obviously you approach these things in the nicest way possible.
Yes.
Some mistake was made. It's not a big deal. No one lost a life.
Right.
So obviously they can always be approached nicely and should be, I think, when possible, but you're also teaching young children and stuff who are around you in life on those little things. Those little things are important. And if that's where the only place you can start right now, because you can't deal with big things, then do that. Because you're also modeling that for your kids, because I saw my parents at restaurants and stuff say, oh, hey, I asked this to be cooked medium rare and it's well done. Can you please take it back and tell the chef? Like I grew up watching people speak up for these small things, and those small things add up.
They do add up. And that's I've said a lot of times, if you don't ask for what you want, the answer is always going to be no. But it really is, I think, important for anybody who's not comfortable speaking up and using their voice to start with those really little things and get comfortable with that. And as you get comfortable with that, it builds your confidence to ask for the bigger things. And then the bigger things, maybe you practice a little bit, maybe you role play with a friend. That's okay. All of that is good. Like, all of that is okay. You prep for a little bit, you jot down some notes, but you build that confidence, you build that muscle with asking for little things and finding out that it's actually really easy.
Yeah, tell us a little, some more examples. Let's give some real life examples of you as a people pleaser, either before, after, little, big. Yeah, just rip through them because these are great.
I would say even in the beginning as a health coach, I was a people pleaser with clients in that I would talk, set up a call with somebody at any time, whatever works for them. And yes, I love working with people and I am accommodating, but to a point that I was not wanting to lose them, and I was setting no boundaries for myself. That's and doing things. So, and that's something not just as a coach, but that I think affects a lot of women. I mean, men can do it too in any career, of wanting to be so accommodating that they're not accommodating themselves.
Or that you're overwhelming yourself. And then you again are like bitter and everything, just like eating the steak or the burrito with the cheese on it. You didn't with the cheese. Right. And then you're like annoyed.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
I've done that accidentally, not, and here's the thing, not in verbally being accommodating, let's say, but actually just online making my own schedule that no one can see. And I'm on there and deciding what hours I work. I have like fucked that up and then been angry when someone booked at a certain time. And I'm like, oh my God, like, this is so stupid, because I could just go right now and change this like right now and just decide that I want a different schedule. And sometimes even if it's of our own volition, we sometimes feel like trapped in a thing that we can change. It's stupid.
Absolutely. I just thought of a good, again, a subtle people pleasing thing, really subtle, but really powerful shift that you can make. And when friends of mine have started doing this, they say, oh my gosh, this feels so good. And I've gotten clients now doing it with things. Okay. So when you say no to something, you don't need to explain or justify or make an excuse.
That's my jam.
And I know it's your jam, and it's become my jam, and it's really, really powerful. So even for fun social things, you're invited out. I was invited out for coffee with some friends. This was a while ago when I was still very people pleasing. I was saying, of course I'm going to go, because, I don't want to lose, I want to be there. Like, I was invited. I don't want to not show up. But this was right around the time things were really shifting for me. And I realized that one of these people was someone who really was an energetic drain, that every time I left them, I felt, and I don't know that would be the case now, because I'm better at.
You felt like you needed more coffee.
Yeah, exactly. But I think now I'm better at kind of more in control of my own vibration. But back then when I realized that this person just brought me down with complaints and, all this stuff. And I realized that I didn't want to go. And the old me would have either gone and been miserable and not been happy and felt drained afterwards, or would have canceled with an excuse and a reason and a justification that I wouldn't have felt right. And instead, I just sent the group text in the morning. I said, I won't be able to make it today.
Love it.
And I went on with my day. And it was the best day ever. Like, I don't remember what I did that day. I'm telling you, Elle, it was the best day ever. There was things so empowering, but I didn't even say, I'm sorry, I can't make it.
Okay. I love this. Yes. I can't make it.
I can't make it.
And no explanation as to why. And I hope everyone's hearing that, because, by the way, when we're all on the other end of it, I also don't want to hear your 10-page story about, I've got to go pick up so-and-so at school. I've got to do this. Then I've got to run over here. And, so-and-so's been, maybe, sorry guys, next time. Oh my God. And it is so much clear, authentic. Sometimes people might not buy what you're saying anyway. A lot of times it's bullshit. And then you got to keep up with some lie that you told about where you were. Exactly.
Exactly. I mean, I feel like that's a negative, right? You're giving some half truth about why you can't make it. And instead I just said, I won't be able to make it today. And I had the best day. I didn't say I'm sorry because I wasn't sorry. This was nothing to apologize for. And I had the best day ever. And again, I don't remember exactly what I did. I remember feeling so empowered and so fired up and ending up being so productive, probably doing a lot of like creative, like content stuff because I was feeling so good. So the more you do that, and then the way that builds is then so you do that in these little situations, I can't make it, and you don't explain, you don't justify, you don't make an excuse. And then when these people criticize us, we can get to the point where we no longer justify or explain. I would just say some of my content and message is still being criticized, and in some cases even kind of manipulated. And I'm not even engaging in a discussion. I'm not defending anything that I'm doing. I'm not explaining anything that I'm doing. I'm just continuing to do what I'm doing. And that is the best feeling of all.
I love that so much. And it's such a great example that led into how it kind of compounds and builds.
Yeah.
So interesting. The life of a people pleaser. Let's get into some maybe bigger ones, some bigger examples of ways that you or anything else you'd like to add, and things that might have come up for you that people might resonate with and go, "Ooh, I do that." I mean, the justification thing, the explaining is, I'll give one I've given before, but I think it's a good one.
Okay.
And this happens even with really confident people. So one of my best friends is confident as fuck. He really is. But that doesn't mean we all don't have moments and where you got to catch yourself. And so he was, and this person makes, a lot of money, and they were negotiating for a new company, a new thing, a new, pay package. Right. And, I used to be a recruiter and talk about resumes and all this kind of stuff. So we're brainstorming about this. And so they gave him an offer, and he was writing the letter back to say, no, I'd like this, right? Like to counter offer. Okay. And in the counter offer letter, there was a paragraph in there explaining like kind of his finances a little bit. It was like, the reason, basically it was the reason behind it was I have one daughter in college right now, another son about to enter college, da 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 da. And I said, cancel that whole fucking paragraph. How dare you no one needs to know why, what, how. I don't care if you're spending the money on fucking cocaine all the I don't give a shit what
it's your money.
It's your money. And all that matters is that this is what your worth is. You don't have to tell them why. Personally, professionally, you got to prove your case. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's different. And he's like, oh, like he saw it, because sometimes it can be an automatic thing. Even really confident people don't realize you're doing. That's why it's always good to get a second set of eyes on something like this. But people fall into that. And that is such a weak ass position. And it puts you in a position where like, it kind of says maybe, are you not feeling good about your money story? Oh, like, I've got this kid in college and another online. Oh, that's not stressful money story there. Like, why?
Yeah.
Why? You could own 1,500 Porsches, 10 homes. Fuck it. That's your rate. They don't need to know what the hell you're doing.
Nobody needs to know why.
Right. And that's a small example of even where someone is confidently counter offering, feels confident enough to do that. But within that dips down a little bit, take a steps backwards, and you got to clean those areas up. And that's where it's justifying and explaining. So, that's where you can really look at your emails and again, offers or proposals. I think the confident move overall is the more you stick with facts, and that's with anyone, drawing boundaries, everything, just the facts of, you don't have to say why you want it. That's just what you want.
It's what you want, and you're worth it. I think something too about not just the people pleasing, but for anyone listening to this who feels they might be in a, controlling relationship, even after you're out, there can be things you can feel so good, and then there can be things that trigger you.
Yes.
And for me, it was, and again, I'm without going into all kinds of detail. I mean, I was in some really dark places. And times where I felt trapped, times where I was truly scared, being screamed at in an enclosed place like a car where you really can't go anywhere. And even years later, texts, just receiving just the text tone and seeing who it was from could trigger a feeling like could take me right back. And, one point I was several years, probably 4 or 5 years, 5 years ago, diagnosed by 2 professionals saying, with PTSD. And to me, that's just a label in a moment of time. It's like a snapshot of time. It's not a label that I am going to own in any way, but you need to, that's again, setting boundaries. Turn off text notifications from people that might trigger you.
Block them and only allow emails. There are so
block
many
them.
ways. Yeah.
Right. There's so many ways. And really,
I want to just jump in there real quick and say,
yes.
This reminds me of a story years ago, real quick, about a friend who was dating someone and she tried to break up with him. It got bad. And he was texting her really nasty things, like an onslaught of just hateful things about her. And she told me about it. And I said, why would you continue to allow this person to even present this information to you, to even affect you? Why aren't you blocking this person? You need to block everything at this point. And now, it was horrible stuff.
Yeah.
She didn't. And then the comments after that were even worse. And then she came back and was like, I should have fucking, you know what I mean? Because the words that then she ingested after that were even worse, brought her lower, and were even more disturbing. And again, could have protected herself. I'm not ragging on her for it. We've all done, but it's just that this advice is there for a reason. People really adopt it because you can really control how you're affected, triggered, or who has the right to even say something to you.
Right. And, we train other people how to treat us. So I attracted some of that stuff into my life by being such a people pleaser. I'll take full ownership of that. But going forward, we train people how to treat us. So you don't make yourself so available. Block, don't reply, wait to reply, whatever it takes. It's setting those boundaries. And it's not just like a boundary against the other person. It's a boundary it's protecting you. You have to set boundaries with yourself also, not, I was talking about filling yourself up first in the morning, but the more you're tending to yourself first, which as people pleasers, we generally don't need to do, we're not used to doing, the more comfortable you become in setting those boundaries with other people, the more comfortable you become blocking somebody or not picking up the phone, not replying to the text. It's the more you take care of yourself, the easier those things get.
It's always a compliment if someone says that person is so nice. It's a terrible thing and a red flag if someone's like, oh, they're too nice.
Yeah.
That's the people pleaser category.
It really
because
is.
That's the person that keeps losing and people feel bad for them. They are really nice. but because they're letting people walk all over them, not drawing boundaries. And
absolutely.
The problem is they're just too nice. And it's like, no, they're a liar. They're a people pleaser. And it sounds so harsh, guys. But if you are that person, get on it. And listen, I've coached a bunch of them. I know you have too. It is my desire, I know yours, to instill this empowerment within everybody.
Yes.
And I want to talk a little bit about that. So first of all, even in the intro, I mentioned it, but Elizabeth is most active on Instagram. And as far as staying fit and the healthy, hot kind of part about it, that's physical, she has so many workout videos, you guys. There are so many asana hubs, all sorts of different home, easy workouts, really great. So just, her Instagram page is filled with it. Let's talk about your Happy, Healthy, and Hot journal, which everyone can get.
I would love to. And I'll just,
this is a 90-day journey, but I love all of the areas you cover. So let's talk about that.
Thank you so much. Well, yes, jumping back real quick to those workouts, I'll just throw out there, I'm live on Instagram every Wednesday at noon, and they're all saved in my feed, and the workouts are 10 minutes. Most of them don't need any equipment, and women are seeing results. And that's really why I created this journal. It's the Happy, Healthy, and Hot journal, 90 days to love your body and your life. And I created it like for my clients, for myself, for everyone, because it's a way of pulling those three pillars together. Happy is the mindset, healthy is the nutrition, and hot is the fitness, and just kind of, to me, the overall confidence and vibe. But I wanted to create a tool. I found out that as I'm working with clients, I'm encouraging them, especially in the beginning, to start tracking what they're eating, not to obsess over macros or anything like that, but just to become self-aware and be aware of what they're putting into their bodies. And then I'm talking to them about the mindset and using the affirmations and finding things to be grateful for and what they're proud of, things that they're proud of every day. And, of course, talking about the fitness. And there wasn't one tool to tie all this together that I saw anywhere. And that's why I created this journal. It was very much like an inspired action. And what's so exciting is that people are seeing results. So there's room on each day. You can start whenever you want. Lasts for 90 days. There's a check-in every 7 days, which I find very helpful. And each day the pages are huge. There's plenty of room. It's asking, 3 things you're grateful for, something you're proud of, what's your intention for the day, what's your, pick an affirmation for the day. And then plenty of room to track what you're eating. It doesn't matter what type of protocol you're using, and your workouts, room to track your weight if you want to do that, any other notes you want to make. Every single page has a little tidbit on the bottom, either a quote, a little health tip. And I have one woman, actually, when she reviewed it on Instagram, and this is someone who's in my community. In fact, I'm going to give her as an example of someone who's seen it, who's just an amazing success story. But she said that little tidbit down at the bottom is like having me in her ear every day, and it really keeps her going. And I thought that was fun because I had fun putting together those 90 little things. And it's great to hear that people are really using this.
I love it. It's honestly the imprinting of the subconscious and the attention when you're actually writing it down.
Yes.
Is something that's a great, it's really valuable. Yeah. It kind of imprints it. And then also it's forcing you to spend and simmer in that world there for the time that it takes to do it, which is a little bit different than having just a couple flippant thoughts while you're washing the dishes, which is nice too, but
yes. But yeah, that's something. So
you're committing to something, you're
absolutely
like, commit to this. Yeah.
And something that a lot of people have mentioned too, is because they go back to the journal during the day to jot down what they're eating or how they worked out or how many steps they got in, that they're coming back to what they wrote down in the morning, and they're checking in with themselves, which is amazing. And this woman that I was just mentioning, her name's Karen, and she's a few years younger than I am. She's been a member of my community online for a long time. She purchased a journal that came out in August. And between August and December, lost 25 pounds, just doing my work, like working out with me online, using the journal, using the nutrition tips that I'm posting, and managed to keep all of that off over the holidays, and even lost a little additional weight over the holidays. And she's still going. And, that stories like that just light me up. Like, this stuff, it's not hard, but women don't know where to start. And that's, again, why I created this journal. I just felt it was an easy way for somebody to get started and then actually see results.
Yeah. And I mentioned it in the intro, but you are a double certified health coach, and you've been doing it a long time. And also, just briefly, we've touched on it before, and I know you probably have it somewhere in your stories, but you did deal with serious cystic acne issues until you changed your diet. So just give us the main of, like, I eliminated the shit. This is what I did, and my acne went away.
Yes. Well, so, and all these other things happened. So first of all, as I mentioned, I have been into health and wellness and nutrition my entire life. So it's not like I was eating pure crap and suddenly I started eating better and everything got better. I was always aware of what I was putting into my body. But I had these ongoing issues most of my life. The cystic acne that started in when I hit puberty and never really went away. And I was on Accutane 3 times. And then as I became an adult, this anxiety, which, yes, certainly the personal situation that I was in was not helping, but I was developing this anxiety that got worse and worse, especially as I was in that situation longer. And then I was having these ongoing digestive issues. And I was a vegetarian most of my life, but eating dairy and, eggs and all that stuff, vegan for part of that time. And again, I don't think that there's one perfect way for anybody to eat, but for me, it was the grains and the dairy that were just triggering everything. So by eliminating, I just took grains. It wasn't until I was in my 40s that this finally, again, you do all the research, you're doing all the meds, you're doing all the natural stuff, you've tried every prescription, you're still not seeing success. And for me, it was the grains and the dairy and processed sugar and in general. And it was like, I think the grains especially, it was like magical how they were just so inflammatory for me. So it was magical how quickly the inflammation on my face started going down. It was literally like my face stopped hurting. Like my face stopped hurting. And
by the way, I had a brief encounter with this when I was hypothyroid, where my skin was like a disaster. I totally understand. I had moments of understanding. I remember feeling like I feel so bad for people who struggle with it, because it's like your face hurts.
Yes. My face would just hurt. I was physically uncomfortable, incredibly self-conscious. You just feel like you have to constantly checking the mirror, like, can I style my hair in a way that covers this giant cyst on my forehead? How much makeup do I have on? All that stuff, always checking yourself. And so my face started to clear up. Like, as I said, I felt the inflammation going down. Within a month, I was not having any new breakouts. My face looked so much better. It was unbelievable. But then what was subtle is a few months down the road, I was like, wow, my stomach doesn't hurt anymore. So I had this subtle, again, it was an inflammation really throughout my body. But as small as I am, my belly always looked a little bloated. And that just went away. Because I was taking this inflammatory food out of my diet. Am I saying grains are the worst thing ever for every single person? No, I'm not. Like, I don't want somebody, but I'm saying most people could do with a lot less of them in their diet, I think.
And if you have acne, getting rid of grains, flours, all flours, and dairy is literally going to change your life. Primal health coach, a friend of mine, who's an esthetician for 30 years. She would tell all the teenagers that would come in, she's like, listen, there's one way to fix this. If you really just want to fix this quickly, eliminate these things.
It's amazing. And now I do, like, I will have some small amounts of cultured dairy and I'm fine, but super high quality stuff, but eliminating the dairy also. And it was like, even around, I got prettier. It wasn't just my skin clearing up, like my eyes changed because there was this subtle inflammation, this subtle puffiness that I didn't even know was there. And now it's so interesting because once you get tuned into what's working for your body, and I always say it feels so good to feel so good, then when you do eat things that are a little off, and sometimes it's just a meal that you ate out and you're not quite sure what was in it or whatever. And no, do we have to be perfect all the time? No, but now I can literally see it in my eyes when I've eaten something that's a little off. So you want to feel good all the time. And I always say it's like, I'm not even people ask how I stay so motivated. And I'm like, it's not really motivation, it's inspiration. I want to keep feeling this good and looking this good. So it's so easy to do these things.
Yeah. And obviously that's why you and I would, of course, suggest to start with a paleo primal ancestral living type of lifestyle.
Yes. And ancestral living, there's just so much wisdom.
There's so much wisdom.
There was no crap. They weren't eating crap back then,
But they weren't. And also so many people, it's like really the bedrock baseline of a lot of people who have cured themselves of horrible things, MS, rheumatoid arthritis, just because paleo does eliminate food groups that exacerbate autoimmune diseases. So if you're listening and you're new to it, really take a look at paleo primal living. And also, of course, we're both primal health coaches, but still I would start there. And then it's like, okay, if that's not working, you can take some other steps, but mouth to anus is the first step in anything. And
after that, we can certainly fine tune, but getting out the grains and the dairy, I think can be life-changing for so many people in so many situations. And going a little more into the whole ancestral health thing, I love to point out also that it is, and this certainly, Elle, it's so much more than diet. it's a lifestyle. It's getting back in nature, getting outside, getting the natural vitamin D from the sun, going on the hikes, walking in our bare feet sometimes, being, it's all of those things too. And your whole quality of life increases.
Absolutely. We both have benefited so much. So everyone can go visit Elizres, ELIZRES.com. And also happy, healthy, hot and hot _ Elizabeth on Instagram. We'll put everything in the show notes to connect with you. What would you like to share with our audience on any of the topics we've covered today as we
Well, I'd like to, as we're talking about where they can find me, I would highly recommend finding me on Instagram first, because that's where you're going to see everything the most up to date with. I share everything. My workouts, as I said, at least once a week, they're up there that you can work out with me. What I'm eating, new things that I'm trying. And I want to just share a few other really recent fun success stories, because this is the stuff that lights me up, of seeing women really turn their lives around.
Oh, yeah.
I mentioned Corinne, who's lost 25 pounds, using the journal, working out with me on Instagram, and just doing these things. Another woman, she's a few years older than I am, Laura. She's amazing. She had been in my world, in my Happy Healthy Not community on Instagram for a long time, very quietly watching what was going on. And through some stressful situations, some family changes, et cetera, ended up putting on some weight, decided, hey, I'm going to start actually trying these things that she's talking about, because she's like, okay, I've been following this girl for years. Like, clearly this stuff is working. So she bought my journal and started just following some of my tips, lost 14 pounds. And now we're working together one-on-one, and we're fine tuning some things. And now she's seeing even greater results. But what is even more exciting than the weight that she's lost and is continuing to lose, and yes, that gives you an immediate lift and a boost, is that she said she just has this new confidence. People she works with are noticing a change in her. She just feels different. She's more excited. There's more of a spring in her step. Like, these are the things. It's not just about, losing weight and looking better, although those things are great. I want to like what I see in the mirror, but it's the way you feel. And another woman that I've worked with just recently, who's really awesome, Gail, again, part of my online world for a long time. She was active, healthy, also in her 50s, broke her foot, and then approached me and wanted to start working with me one-on-one, and managed to not gain any weight while healing. And then now she is active again and losing weight and feeling better. And again, just the more confidence, the more energy, the more vitality. It's like, these are the things that are so exciting. You see people trying new things, feeling better, like more comfortable in their skin, having more fun in their life, because they're taking care of their bodies. So loving their bodies and their lives.
I love it so much. And for everyone, really, the activity on Instagram, there's just so much there. And like you said, in your stories, you're like, here's what I ate. Here's another thing you could do. Here's there. Actually, one time you and I did a live many years ago called "How to Have Dessert Without Being an Asshole." That was yes. For like how to make shift stuff that tastes like shitty crap, but then is actually not that bad.
Right. Yeah.
All the tricks. So you have so many of them on there, and you're active on a daily basis. There's lots of inspiring stuff. And again, you guys can go grab that journal. Of course, the link is in the show notes. Or you can just go to Amazon and type in, Happy, Healthy, and Hot journal, and it'll
pop right up.
And so, so everyone also can reach out personally, DM you. You always respond. Anything else you'd like to leave us with on anything we've talked about?
Wow. Well, we've talked about a lot, and I would just say, it doesn't matter who's listening. It doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are. And I should add, I have clients in their 20s. Like, I've worked with all ages. I just realized the examples I gave were all of women in their 50s, because those seem to be the ones who primarily reach out to me. But it doesn't matter where you are, where you stand in life, what you've been through. You deserve to have an amazing life. You can love your body and your life. It can be easy and fun. And it just starts with taking that first step. You don't have to have this giant plan. Take one step, and one step is going to lead to another and another. It's so worthwhile.
Well, what I love too about, like, as you're talking about some of the older examples, but the reason the young ones like you is because they're smart and go, oh, damn, she's already in her mid 50s and she looks like that, which means she's already figured it out.
Well, they tell me,
I mean, it's so clear. Like, you could get a trainer that's like 21, but it's like, okay, what are they going to look like when they're like 55? Go check out Elizabeth. She's already like walking.
Well, it's so funny. They like people say, I want to
already. Yeah.
They say, I want to be you when I grow up. Like which is the best compliment. But I actually really love that. It's awesome. I mean, the sooner we can get this message out there, the better.
I love it. Well, thanks so much for joining us. And for everyone else, I'll see you next time.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Elle. This was a lot of fun.
Hey listeners, over the years, a ton of companies have approached me to collaborate, but I will only promote companies whose products I believe in and that I actually use and consume on a regular basis. So let me tell you about some of my favorite companies that I can offer you discounts for. Rep Provisions, an amazing company doing incredible things for our planet, topsoil, and animals with regenerative agriculture, and it's my #1 source for quality pasture-raised meat and chicken. Visit repprovisions.com and use code L15 for 15% off. I'm also obsessed with a company called Carnivore Crisps. They make a lean, all-natural, and delicious alternative to conventional snacking, made with just real meat and real salt. Totally addictive, and my favorite ones are the beef brisket and the ribeye. Visit carnivorecrisps.com and use code PALEO10 for 10% off. I also love and regularly use Paleo Valley products. They make amazing supplements and delicious paleo products. I use the superfood greens powder, grass-fed beef sticks, the organ complex, and their bone broth bars. I love the lemon and apple. I also use their essential C complex and more. Visit paleovalley.com/promos/Elle Russ for 15% off. I also love Primal Kitchen. They make delicious paleo-approved, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, and no refined sugar products. And I use them daily, from their collagen powders and sauces and marinades to their avocado and olive oil. So good, so healthy. Visit primalkitchen.com and use code L10 for 10% off. I also love paleo powder and use it almost on everything I cook. They make incredible seasoning blends, and they also have these incredible grain-free coatings that feel just like crispy breadings that you would have had prior to knowing that there's another way. So visit paleopowder.com and use code L15 for 15% off.